Good evening, everyone. Good evening. Welcome, everyone. Thank you for joining today's VCT Pacific Scrum. We are here with Utotan and Elevated from GE. Before we jump into the Q&A session, we will start by hearing some thoughts from the player and the coach about today's match. Utotan, if we could start with you.
유도탄 선수, 그래서 오늘 경기에 대한 전반적인 소감 먼저 부탁드리겠습니다.
일단 스크림 성적과는 뭔가 좀 다르게 결과가 나온 것 같아서 조금 아쉬움이 많이 남는 것 같아요.
So generally, I'm a little bit disappointed that the results didn't go the way as scrims usually went. So, yep, generally I'm disappointed.
Yeah, I'm just getting very tired of starting every series down 0-1 because we just don't show up in the first map, and it takes us an entire map to wake up, and our comms are like very, very low energy. People are kind of playing like they don't necessarily want to be there to some extent, and as a coach, it's very frustrating to have that happen like week in and week out, despite working on it and talking about it over and over and over. So we're going to kind of have to have a very serious conversation as a team. How do we show up in the beginning of these series? Because going down 0-1 to a team like DRX is never going to go well for us. So yeah, it's very fucking annoying. Pardon my French.
그래서 일단 전반적으로 먼저 총평을 하자면은 굉장히 조금 어떻게 보면 짜증스러운 게 뭐냐면 저희가 항상 시작을 할 때, 한 맵을 주고 게임을 시작하는 느낌인 게 저희 팀이 좀 제대로, 뭔가를 하기에 거의 한 맵이 걸린다라는 사실이 굉장히 지금 우리의 발목을 잡고 있고, 팀으로서 조금 같이 앉아서 진중하게 이야기를 좀 해야 될 것 같습니다. 왜냐하면 DRX 같은 팀을 상대로 한 맵을 지고 들어간다는 거는 절대로 이길 수가 없다라는 의미이기 때문에 좀 이거에 대한 보완이 필요할 것 같습니다.
Thank you. We will now open the floor for on-site live questions. If you have any questions, please raise your hand and we will bring you a microphone.
Hello, guys. Congratulations on the loss. So Lara, my question would be about the change of the coaching staff. I'm curious if like the coaching system has remained the same for the team, or do you have like any other vision? Because like I'm curious how you're working with the team right now, and if you have your own style compared to the previous head coach. Thank you.
Yeah, definitely have some different ideas and approaches to how I want the team to be run and how practice should be run and prep and all of that stuff. To be perfectly honest, I was doing a large portion of the VOD review and prep for matches anyway, so not a lot has changed as far as the prep for matches. But definitely it is different being in the head coaching slot where, everything is kind of on you. You don't really have sort of like a buffer of responsibility. So now everything is definitely my responsibility. And I think that performances like today are kind of unacceptable as far as my standard goes. So, yeah, I mean, we have to demand more from the players. We have to demand more from ourselves as coaches. And I'm going to be honest, having Derek in the booth was a breath of fresh air because he was very like good with the players, and he's obviously is a player. So it was helpful to have him and his energy and his ideas because he has a different outlook on the game and more sort of like micro adjustments that can be made. So I'm happy that he was there for me. And yeah, I mean, we're probably going to have to retool some of our approach anyway because obviously things are not working.
For those of, is there anybody with any additional questions? Okay. Thank you for sharing your thoughts. That'll be all from on-site. We'll be moving on to pre-submitted questions. And we have a few pre-submitted questions, and then afterwards, we will wrap this up. This is a question for Udutan. Are you surprised by today's roster and agents picks from DRX?
네, 유도탄 선수에게 질문입니다. 오늘 DRX의 선수 기용 및 에이전트 기용에 관해서 조금 놀라셨는지에 대해서 좀 궁금합니다.
일단 조합 같은 경우는 뭐 트윈트리를 쓸 것 같다는 예상은 하고 있었고요. 저는 살짝 의외였던 게 그 에스트레아 선수를 영입하자마자 시즌 중에 바로 추가를 했던 게 살짝 신기했던 것 같습니다.
As for the compositions, we were a little bit aware, at least some point aware that they were going to use double duelist. But the surprising thing for me is that after they signed Estrella, they put him straight into the starting five. That was the most surprising part for me.
The next question is for Elevated. It was a pretty one-sided game on Ascent. What were the primary difficulties that do you think the team encountered?
I mean, I think a big part of it is that we just played super afraid. Like most of our rounds were just giving them the entire map control. We called a timeout very, very early on and told them to make an adjustment. I want you guys to re-clear the space that they're taking in the early round because they're always going to move to somewhere else to take more space. And instead of doing that, we just did the same thing for like 3 or 4 more rounds until one of the players said, "Hey, we need to do this adjustment." And then we kind of started to do it, but by then we were down by quite a bit. And so, yeah, I mean, primarily the reality is that like we played as if we were worse than DRX as players when we can shoot with them and we can play with them, but we played afraid of them for most of the first map.
The next question is again for Yudotan. The team was resilient despite this loss on Ascent with a close scoreline on split. How were the team able to adapt to DRX's playstyle?
그래서 유도탄 선수에게 질문입니다. 첫 맵에서 굉장히 어떻게 보면 일방적인 패배를 당하고 나서도 그럼에도 불구하고 두 번째 맵에서는 좀 굉장히 좀 접전을 이어나갈 수 있었는데요. 혹시 그럴 수 있었던 뭐 비결이라든지 아니면 어떤 뭐 변화 같은 것이 있었나요?
사실 스플릿은 사실 저희가 제일 자신 있는 맵이라고 해도 뭐 상관이 없었는데 이제 첫 맵은 솔직히 말하면 준비가 잘 안 됐었던 것 같아요. 그래서 첫 맵은 그냥 분위기가 안 좋아서 그냥 두 번째 맵 때 잘해보자라는 생각으로 해봤는데 네, 결국 첫 맵 진 게 굉장히 큰 충격이었던 것 같아요.
So, I mean, just in terms of our map pool, I think Ascent is a little bit more of our less prepared maps, and then Split is, I think, my personal opinion, is that one of our strongest maps. So I think it showed a little bit, but in the end, losing our first map to such a big degree was a little bit too much for us to overcome.
The final question is to Elevated again. You will next face Genji, who are also fighting hard for their playoff spots. How do you plan to prepare for their next game?
Well, I think momentum wise, that game is probably the most important one of the season. Obviously, we have 2 teams in our group that are 0-3, so somebody needs to win, somebody needs to make playoffs. And if we were to lose that one, I would definitely worry about us in the final week just because of momentum and mentality and stuff like that. So we definitely need to spend as much time as possible getting ready for Gen G. They have very good players. We know generally how they play. Obviously, they've had their own sort of difficulties this year. So we just need to fix how we show up. I mean, that's going to always come down to that. And as a coach, it's very difficult to solve problems that are not strategic because it's something where it's kind of out of my hands once I'm done with my timeouts and once I'm done with my prep and giving people the inspiring speech before the game. If they're not inspired and they're not there to fight to win the maps, then what can I do? And so I'm trying to figure that out. And reality is that if we show up, we can beat any team, but we continually underperform in the first map, and then we end up having to fight back from a deficit, which makes it very, very hard because every mistake is so much more impactful at that point. So yeah, again, it's going to be like a very hard week of practice, and hopefully we can solve this issue because it's been a consistent one.
Thank you. We sincerely appreciate your time and attention today. This wraps up today's Scrum with GE, and we would like to bring this session to a close. Thank you again for joining us. We'll be back shortly with our next Scrum.